wanted to talk about this because I know, like, now I know you work in UCF, and a lot of college rising seniors this year are so confused with the college process and like how it's going to go and like, the changes. So, what advice would you give to rising seniors regarding the changes in the college process, and what should they look for in a school? Because I know some people they're like complaining, they're like, "Wow, I haven't even like written my personal statement or like
Yeah.
whatever. I don't really know myself." But yeah, any
Yeah. So, da- as someone who went through the process twice, but I also worked in college admissions for 3 years. Um, so this is a question that I have been thinking a lot about, even though I don't currently work in admissions, just in our current globe and the world we're in. And it's not even just for rising seniors. I would say this is advice I would give to anyone thinking about college one day. It's never too early to start dreaming and preparing for that. But it's not about where you go, it's about what you do once you're there. And in a society that really, you know, puts on this golden plate, the Ivy Leagues and like the Harvards of the world, that those are the places you have to aspire to go to. Yes, great institution, a lot of great things about it. But there are a lot of amazing schools with a lot of amazing individuals who work there who are committed to your success. And so I went to an institution here, it's University of South Florida in Tampa, awesome school. In terms of Florida schools, everyone was always talking about UF, University of Florida, University of Florida. Um, but USF was the right fit for me. And I had an amazing experience there. So, and it opened up doors for me to get into to an awesome master's program at UNC Chapel Hill, which is one of the top social work programs in the world. So again, but it's what I did once I was at USF that prepared me to be a strong student there. So don't focus so much on the name of an institution. Dig in a little bit deeper. Go beyond the admissions pages for the institutions you're looking at. Don't just limit your research to what's on their admissions page, because the admissions page is a specifically curated story that they're trying to tell you about their institution. Obviously, it some people have a hard time saying this, but higher education is, in a way, it's a business, right? They're marketing their institution to students to get them to come and to invest their time and their resources at their institution. So I would say think about, okay, no matter what the name is, what am I going to do when I get there? Does this institution have the professor, like the type of learning environment that fits my learning needs? Are the people nice? Do I really care about community? Do I want to build community? I know building community in times of COVID is very challenging. It's a unique, right? So a lot of students will probably be doing more online virtual learning than ever before. But what is the institution doing to be creative to build community for their students? UCF, for example, is a leader in digital learning. So they are more advanced in their ability to support students in an online learning environment. So thinking things like that, I would also always encourage students to look at the graduation rates and retention rates at the institutions you're planning on applying to, because that isn't, and then if you that data is available online, so you do have to do some research, but look at those two, graduation rate and retention rates, because it is an indicator of, it could spark questions for you, but it's an indicator of how well are they serving their students, right? If the graduation rate at an institution is 20%, only 20% of their incoming class that come in finish their degree, that's that should be like a red flag. You should pause and say, why? What may be attributing to that low percent graduation rate? So I would just encourage students to think about the college search process more than just the name of an institution, because you're investing your time and your finances and your gifts to that place. You want to make sure that they have the capacity to invest back into you. Um, so those would be my biggest pieces of advice, is just really, when you're thinking about which institution, how are they supporting their students once they're in their institution. And then in terms of personal essays, the personal narratives, the tests, um, all of the, you are not just one part. Your application, it is a holistic admissions process for the most part. Like every institution does it slightly different, but you are not the sum of one part of your application. So your test score does not equal your worth. Your personal essay is 500 words. How can they fully understand who you are in just 500 words? They can't. So I think understanding that the application is just a part of your story, it's a part of who you are. It doesn't necessarily mean who you are. So, rejection is bound to happen in the admissions process when applying to colleges. Try your best to that same quote, rejection is redirection. It's redirecting you to another opportunity. So those would be my pieces of advice to students right now, and to just be an advocate for yourself. Again, what's the worst that could happen? Someone says no. Reach out to people, network as best as you can. Try to find, we have, in the age of social media, we have so much available to us online. Watch YouTube videos. You can't go on a campus tour. Okay, that's a bummer, but I never went on a college campus tour. I just looked at pictures on through Google Images. But now there's YouTube videos, right? And like a lot of students are recording their day in the life as a student at X institution. So do your research in those ways too, because that matters as well. So yeah, I rambled a lot, but I'm happy to jump on again another time if people are interested in this topic. It's something I'm definitely passionate about.
I'd love to know more about, like, that's all the questions I had prepared. But like, what do you do in UCF with the bridging low income students of color into the higher education?
Yeah. So I don't do a lot of student facing work. So and what I mean by that is I'm not on a day to day interacting with students. I'm advocating on their behalf with the institution. So I work with senior leadership at UCF and across the institutions that are part of the Alliance. It's the University Innovation Alliance. And we partner together hold to to hold the institution accountable to the promise that they made to serve all students. So we look at policies, we look at processes that are either helping students advance through their college career or potentially placing barriers. And if they are placing barriers, how can we as an institution work to remove those barriers? So oftentimes you'll hear about putting all the onus and responsibility on the student, like figure it out. Like this is a complicated process, but figure it out. Well, are there ways that we can make it less complicated? Like, have we just a lot of my work is thinking about the design of higher education. There are a lot of data that's out there that's okay. Why aren't more Latino students are getting into college, but why aren't they graduating at the same rate? It's not because Latinos are less capable or less smart. There are also institutional reasons, system reasons that's preventing students from graduating. And so that a lot of my work is around thinking about the systems a system of higher education, and how can we make it a place that really does truly serve all students. And so, obviously through history of the United States, higher education was not designed for us women or minority women, even though I don't really like the word minority because we're a majority. It wasn't designed for us. And so that's an issue that we have to address. And so a lot of my work is just having those conversations and partnering with senior leadership across the campus to really live out our promise of serving all students.
Yeah. I know a lot of kids around the world are now like getting into advocacy and like wanting to serve their community. So how can like we as youth do that in our community?
Yeah, I think one is just the acknowledgement that your voice holds power. If we can start to really plant that seed from a very young age that our voice holds power, and that I think is foundational. We always talk about like your vote is like voting matters and like that's your power. But I think even before you have the right to vote, at like the age that you age into voting, your voice still matters. That we need you to be a part of the conversation, because again, collectively is how we'll figure out how to solve these large issues. There are things that you see from your vantage point as um, you know, a Gen Z individual that as a millennial, I don't see from my vantage point because we're just in slightly different times of our life. But there's so much that I can learn from you in terms of that. And so I would say first starting off just recognizing the power that your voice has, and then the reasons why it should be part of the conversations, even if it's currently missing. Push to try to get that voice heard in that conversation, because eventually you're going to be the leaders, right?
Yeah.
So we need you, I would say, continue to cultivate that now. Social media is is a great way to practice that. I always think about, like, I'm working out, like, my advocacy is a muscle that I have to train. Something that you have to live out. You can't just say, I want to get healthy and be fit, but I'm just going to sit and watch TV all day. Like, that's that's the same with advocacy. Like, I want to be an advocate. It's a verb. It's action oriented. And so I would say a great way to start is understanding your power, checking your privilege, knowing where your voice fits into the conversation and when to step back and to elevate other voices. But use social media as a platform, as you all are doing with this digital magazine, to spread awareness to stories that and issues that may go untold if it's not for you. And so we need to help reshape the narrative on a lot of issues. And so if you can realize that your voice and your power can help do that, then why not?
Are there any last words you want to say um, regarding anything like girl empowerment? Um,
Yeah. I guess one thing I'll say is just to reemphasize that I didn't get here alone, and we need each other. We need each other now more than ever. And so, you know, and I think COVID has helped me reflect that, this is impacting everyone, but it's also impacting people differently because of inequities that exist in our disparities that exist in our country, in our world, in our cities. And so, although I don't know everyone's personal lived journey or experience right now, um, where you are today, wherever you're watching this from, like, you have value, you have worth, and your voice matters. You are a leader, and you're just going to continue to cultivate that leadership from within. And we need you. We need everyone now more than ever, to be a part of creating sustainable change in our world. And so I just want to emphasize that I am committed to doing all I can to ensure that others have can live out a healthy and successful life. And I just want to invite others to do the same. And again, advocacy and empowerment, these are all action oriented words. You can't just do that by but just by watching. We need you to partake in it. So I hope that my conversation and my story inspires others to see from within that they are a leader, and that they can help spark change in their family and in their community and across the world.
Thank you.